What if I told you there's a country that already feels like the future? Cash almost gone, food dropped by buzzing robots, and an entire nation running like a single well-oiled machine. That country is China. And the real story isn't just about shiny trains and bright towers. It's about choices, hard ones, made over decades. Choices that changed how 1.4 billion people live every single day. Picture this. You step off a plane into a city that didn't exist on a map a generation ago. The airport is spotless, the metro glides in on time, and the skyline looks like it was drawn by a sci-fi artist. You reach for your wallet, then remember no one wants your cash. You scan a code instead. The same code pays for your taxi, your hotel, your coffee, your haircut, your rent, sometimes even the street noodles at midnight. That code lives inside one app, WeChat. Think of it as text, phone, social feed, bank, ticket counter, and office punch-in all inside one green icon. Schools send grades through it. Bosses approve time off through it. Police can issue fines through it. Your whole day is there. With a little square of black and white pixels, China moved an entire society past coins and cards. The trains? They don't roll. They fly. More than half of the world's high-speed tracks run across Chinese soil. The stations feel like tiny airports, quiet, bright, efficient. You sit down, barely settle in, and the countryside blurs into soft brush strokes. 2 hours later, you've crossed a distance that would take a car most of a day. For many Chinese families, this isn't a special treat. It's normal life. Commutes are timed by minutes, not moods. But the future has a shadow. China built the largest camera network on Earth, hundreds of millions of eyes fixed on streets, stations, malls, and doorways. They don't just record, they analyze. Faces are scanned. Even the way you walk can be tagged to your profile. Everything feeds into a giant central system people call Skynet. And behind that system is software that can spot a bag left too long on a bench or a person stepping into a zone they shouldn't enter. It can flag unusual gatherings. It can track a stolen bike in minutes. You don't see many officers on the corner because the corner is already watched. It feels safe. Statistically it is, but the price of that safety is constant visibility. You behave because you feel the gaze. Now zoom out. 3 decades ago, 2 out of 3 people in China were poor. Today, official numbers say it's closer to 1 in 100. That is not a typo. Millions moved from farms into new districts, new apartments, new factory floors, new universities. The country went from roughly 170 cities in the 1990s to more than 700 today. 17 of them are now megacities, great humming engines of light and noise that swallow millions each morning and spill them back out at night. Shenzhen is the favorite story. It used to be a fishing town with wooden boats and hand-tied nets. Then it became a special economic zone, a kind of sandbox where the state allowed foreign money, private startups, and wild ideas to mix. Today it's a global tech base where delivery drones buzz over parks and parts for tomorrow's gadgets are designed between coffee breaks. People there joke that if you can dream a product on Monday, you can have a prototype by Friday. So how did China pull this off? It wasn't magic. In 1978, the country opened its doors. Let's make things for the world. And the world said yes. Factories spread. Orders piled up. Wages were low. Hours were long, and the phrase 996 took root. Work 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. It built phones and shoes and microwaves and bridges and so much concrete that satellite images literally changed color. As the profits grew, the state poured them back into rails, ports, power plants, labs, and entire districts drawn on paper one year and standing the next. There was a cost. Smog turned the sky the color of steel. Rivers ran the wrong shades. In 1 year alone, 2005, millions of deaths were linked to pollution. And the ground moved, sometimes for dams. The Three Gorges project promised clean power but pushed more than 1 million people off their land. If the plan required your village, you packed. The public line was simple: progress first, comfort later. China also looked outward. Roads and rails appeared in parts of Africa, Asia, and Latin America. New ports began to glow at night under cranes painted the same familiar red. Supporters call it development. Critics call it a new form of control with a friendlier face. Either way, a pattern is clear: build links, lock in supply, sell services, and make sure container ships leave full. Here's the twist that confuses outsiders. China is run by a communist party, yet the economy hums with competition and profit. Think of it like this. It's as if 1.4 billion employees work for company China, and the party acts as the chief executive. You can start a business, you can get rich, you can build a brand, but your success is expected to line up with national goals. Semiconductors, clean energy, electric cars, green steel, new materials. When the state points in a direction, the roads, loans, land rights, and grants tend to point with it. If you fight that tide, you often tire out. If you ride it, you often rise. You feel this one company approach most in daily tech. Want groceries in 30 minutes? A scooter rider shows up with a packed bag. Want dinner from that place on the next block? A robot server glides to your table like a silent waiter. Want your new phone by tomorrow? Warehouses pick, pack, and hand off to trains that don't sleep. The checkout lines are scanners, the receipts are digital. A refund can arrive before you've boxed the return. Friction is designed out of your week. This rise also changed what China buys. 10 years ago, specialty coffee was a niche. Now cafes line busy streets, and the extra demand sends ripple effects across global prices. Multiply that one drink by hundreds of millions of new customers, and you start to understand the scale of a country waking up with more money and more taste. All of this points toward a date that appears in speeches, policy papers, and patriotic posters. 2049, the 100th anniversary of the People's Republic. The plan by then? Lead in core technology, lead in industry, cut emissions to net zero after peaking earlier, build cities that waste less energy, replace imports with homegrown chips and machines, export not just goods but platforms and standards. In short, set the rules. Don't just follow them. Will it happen? If you only look at the last 30 years, it's hard to say no. But there are headwinds. The population is aging. Some youths push back against the grind with memes about lying flat, meaning slow down. Debt tied to real estate weighs on local budgets. The wider world watches China with caution, sometimes with fear. Supply chains move away in pieces. Talent flows in both directions now, not just one. The state tries to rebalance: more research, more green power, more robots, less empty apartments, fewer smokestacks. So where does that leave the average person walking to lunch in Shanghai or Chengdu or Xi'an? In a world that is fast, safe by the numbers, cheaper by the scan, and crowded with cameras, In a world where a 20-year plan can become a skyline, where yesterday's field can become a logistics hub, and where your health code, your transit pass, and your grocery list live in the same icon. If you grew up hearing that freedom means low rules and high privacy, parts of this may unsettle you. If you grew up hearing that safety comes first and convenience is king, parts of this may feel like an upgrade. China's system ties both ideas together and then pushes speed. Safety through oversight, wealth through planning, pride through scale. It builds very fast because disagreements do not slow the concrete, but speed can blur faces. It can blur rights. It can blur the quiet parts of a life that aren't measured in output. And yet, the simple facts still hang in the air. Poverty fell. Trains run. Roads reach villages that used to disappear in the rain. Orders arrive same day in towns that used to wait a week. College graduation photos stack higher. Startup signs fill glass lobbies. Patents rise by the tens of thousands. The power grid gets a little greener each season as wind farms bloom on ridges and desert solar fields paint the earth with blue. Critics in the West often point to labor abuses, to censored screens, to jailed writers, to neighbors pressured by loans and ports. Supporters point back to colonial histories, to wars for oil, to the wreckage left by free markets in the wrong hands, to companies that mine data just as eagerly. There is truth in both lists. That's why this topic sparks so much heat and so little light. It's easier to praise or blame than to sit with what China really is. A giant system still in motion with brilliant parts and brutal parts welded together. The bigger question is not, is China good or bad? It's what do we call progress and what are we willing to trade for it? If you say safety, are you also saying surveillance? If you say speed, are you also saying mistakes that no one can question? If you say pride, are you also saying pressure? China's answer so far has been yes to all of it. Build first, fix later, keep moving. And by 2049, be the house that designed the future. Maybe that future looks like an electric bus that talks to the traffic lights so it never hits a red. Maybe it looks like a hospital where your medical file loads in a second and your bill clears before you reach the elevator. Maybe it looks like deliveries that show up by drone at a village homestay on a mountain road no truck can climb. Maybe it looks like a power plant without smoke or noise, feeding 10 cities from sunlight and wind on land that once grew little but dust. But the future might also look like a message that doesn't send because a word was wrong, like a talk that cuts at the interesting part, like a record of where you were last night saved on a server you will never see, like a map that changes without warning because a district name changed in a meeting. So is China already living in 2049? In many ways, yes. In others, it's still arguing with 1995 about fresh air, about fair pay, about how much control is too much. Yet when you stand on a platform, hear a chime, and feel that clean white train slide in like a line of light, it's hard not to think, this is tomorrow arriving early. Here's the part I can't stop thinking about. For years, the world treated China like a workshop behind a curtain. Send an order, get a box. While that was happening, the workshop changed into a campus, the campus into a city, and the city into a machine that designs, makes, delivers, and then designs again. We still talk about it like it's just catching up. But look at payments, logistics, rail, and urban scale. In many ways, it has already passed us. None of this is simple. It's not a movie with a clean hero or a tidy villain. It's a long, messy story that turns on a very human idea. Trade-offs. A family trades the privacy of cash for the ease of a code. A village trades land for a dam that lights classrooms hundreds of miles away. A country trades comfort today for an edge tomorrow. The question for the rest of us is whether our own trade-offs, slower builds, louder debates, more room for error, can still make a good life. A different good, not a broken one. If this made you think good, that was the point. You don't have to love or hate China to learn from it. You just have to watch closely and ask better questions. How much speed do we want? How much safety? How much say? Because the day may come when the future arrives in your town not as a train, but as a choice that asks for something back. Tell me in the comments, which part impressed you the most, and which part worries you the most? The clean systems that save time, or the silent systems that save everything you do? And if you want more clear human stories about how the world is changing, tap subscribe. Next week, we're putting two very different cities side by side, one in the West and one in China, and timing everything from breakfast to bedtime. Let's see who actually lives faster and who lives better.